In this corner, Page Puncher's Supergirl from Injustice 2, and in this corner, the DC Multiverse Supergirl from the Flash movie wave. Both come from McFarlane Toys, both are on sale right now, but which Kara should make the cut for your collection? Welcome to 5 Points of Articulation, where I review action figures and then articulate 5 points to help you decide if you want to add that figure to your collection. The 5 points I discuss are packaging, presentation, posability, playability, and price. I'm Jason, and if you enjoy my content, please like, share, subscribe, do all the YouTube rigmarole. Starting off with the packaging, and right out of the gate we have two very different boxes. DC Multiverse has one of those overly complicated movie-style ones. As I said in my Flash video, I think it would be better just to ditch the DC Multiverse logo for movie figures. And speaking of logos, we have the name and logo on the side. On the back is artwork that's both pretty and pretty simple. The attitude is fun and spunky. I love the kind of metallic coloring on the costume. And remember that rich black hair for later. Page Punchers comes in an extra wide and much simpler window box. Nothing down here but a name and logo, and up top letting us know we're getting a comic. On the side we see that comic is from Injustice 2, and on the back we see that comic along with a very clear picture of the figure. And that figure clearly wants to talk to your manager. Come to think of it, maybe keep her hair in mind too. I really like this artwork, but I do feel like the movie boxes are just a bit too busy. Give me the clean simplicity of Page Punchers any day. Well, at least until they switch over to clamshells. For packaging, this round goes to Page Punchers. Moving on to presentation, and both of our Super Gals stand at just about 6 3/4 inches. Even though one of them is based on a video game and the other one a movie, both figures feel pretty compatible. Zooming on in, and I do think that the movie version does look like actress Sasha Calle. That said, I do feel like the hair should be a bit more black instead of brown, but hey, I'm sure McFarlane will have a gold label version of that soon enough. As for the Injustice 2 version, let's just say she looks less like Kara Zor-El and more like Karen Zor-El. I'm not a fan of the shoulder pads and inverted logo, but McFarlane Toys did do a good job. They got all the panel lines and textures, and flipping it around they even painted the logo on her cape. Even the face itself is nicely sculpted and painted. The real issue is the hair. The paint is lacquered on so thick it just looks dirty. With Sasha, the hair should be darker, but it does at least look more natural. And similar to Injustice 2, they've done a great job on the logo and the texture. This S is a bit different from Henry's, but the basic DNA is there. Not gonna lie, the red stripe running down the arm kind of reminds me a little bit of Spider-Man, but again, all the ribbing and piping is taken directly from Cavill's suit. Flipping that one around, and there's no S on the cape, but I doubt there's one in the movie, and I will say that the transition between cape and costume is pretty obvious. Flipping the cape up, and here she is from the back, and here's Injustice 2. While the sculpted detail is fine between these two figures, there is one big thing that does take me out of them: the hiked up mom jeans looking diapers. Because McFarlane is committed to this design scheme, I don't really know what they could have done differently here. Hopefully at some point soon McFarlane gives us a classic Supergirl. The skirt would be a very natural place to hide the joint. Between the two, I think the Injustice versions is a bit better, mainly because the blue on Sasha's doesn't match the rest of the figure. This isn't a criticism of McFarlane because he didn't design these characters, but I do like how the Injustice one has boots. To my eye, the bodysuit with the feet sewn in just kind of look like pajamas. Why, they even went in and detailed all the grippies. One thing I love about Sasha's costume is that it reminds me a lot of Lara Lang Kent's Supergirl from the comics. I highly doubt we'll ever get a figure of that, so this one's a nice placeholder. In general, I prefer the simplicity of the movie design, but even though I don't like it as much, thanks to all the extra detail, I do think that Injustice 2 is better executed. The hair notwithstanding. For presentation, this round goes to Page Punchers. Moving on to posability, and since these two figures are so alike, their articulation scheme is pretty similar too. From the top, and both figures' heads are on dumbbell joints, and since they both have relatively short hair, they can both look up a pretty decent amount. Oddly enough, they can't look down that much. They both get a pretty decent amount of tilt. Are you telling me I have to contact the corporate office? And of course, all the way around. Moving down in movie can only raise her arm up this high, whereas the game version can raise her arm up higher in spite of having shoulder pads. Of course, both of them have bicep swivel, equivalent double jointed elbows, and wrist balls. Shifting to the torsos, and as previously stated, both Supergirls have diaphragm joints and big ugly diapers. They can arch back this far, which is fairly equivalent, in combination with her neck, and here's a video game version in a flying pose, and recreating the shot where she whizzes past the Batwing, here is the movie version. Despite the diaper, I'm pleasantly surprised by how far each one can hunch forward, and of course they can both tilt and twist. Naturally, each one has McFarlane style hips. The video game one has the highest kick I've ever seen for a McFarlane figure, and she can do a perfect split, and you know what, Sasha ain't no slouch either. She can also do a perfect split. She also gets a little bit of twist in the hip, but not nearly as much as I'd like. The video game version gets even less, which is frustrating because these boots would have been a perfect place to hide a thigh cut. Moving on down though, and both of them have equivalent double jointed knees, toe articulation, and McFarlane ankles that can swivel, hinge, and pivot. The articulation on both of these figures is very impressive, especially the waists and legs. And while it could be argued that the range on Injustice 2 is better, I think that the differences are negligible. For posability, this round is a draw. Moving on to playability, and both figures come with a trading card. If you want to read Injustice 2, pause here, but for the sake of preserving possible spoilers, I'm not going to show you this one. Because it's Page Punchers, it comes with a comic. Can't help but notice she looks a lot less Karen-y here, but because it is Page Punchers, it's the same comic that came with Batman and the other figures in the wave. She does also have a figure stand, but by contrast, the movie version has a flight stand. At the very least, both figures do have alternate hands. But playability is more than just accessories or extraneous comic books. It's also about how well your figures play with others. For my entire modest Supergirl collection, and here's Elseworld's Finest by DC Direct. So very modest. This is mostly the same as the movie costume, but with boots. Next up is DC Icons, which is arguably the best Supergirl figure ever made, and here we have DC Essentials. I know a lot of you would probably really like me to do a head swap with this, but I have found that when I swap out Essentials heads, they really don't ever fit right again, so with your blessing, I'm not going to do that one this time. Moving over to some other members of the family, however, and here's Jonathan Kent and Clark. This one, of course, is from Action Comics 1000. For some other Supermen, and here's DC Rebirth, the costume is more like the movie, but the cape is more like Injustice. Page Puncher seems a bit small compared to his cousin, but the one I'm sure you're most curious about is Henry Cavill. I would love to see this figure with Sasha's color scheme and an updated head. For a few Superman villains, and here's Lex Luthor, Bizarro, and General Zod. With Zod appearing in the Flash movie, this is a great time to bring out the Flash himself. For another Ezra Miller option though, and here's a Snyder Cut version, but for an even better option, and here we have Grant Gustin. I haven't reviewed that atrocious new Affleck yet, but in the meantime, here we have Snyder Cut. And since one of these Supergirls is from Injustice 2, it only makes sense to bring out Injustice 2 Batman. For a couple of other video game Batmen, however, and here we have Arkham City and Arkham Knight. Of course, as long as we're here, we might as well bring out the new blue and gray Hush Batman. But getting back to Injustice 2, and here we have Green Arrow, Dr. Fate, updated version, this guy is part of this Page Punchers wave, by the way. And lastly, here they are with Gorilla Grodd. For a roll-to-scale comparison, here are the Supergirls with Pizza Spidey and the Spectacular Spider-Man. And as always, here they are with Stealth Iron Man. Of course, one thing I'm sure a lot of you are curious about is the potential for head swaps. I don't have the Walgreens Emma Frost I see people using, but I do have the Hellfire Club one. Even though the makeup seems out of place, this is still pretty nice. And if you're wondering how it would look on Sasha, well, here you go. You'd need to do a bit of extra painting, of course, but I think it would be a cool design. While I don't have the Walgreens Emma, I do have the Walgreens Sue Storm. The skin tones don't match, but this is definitely more in line with my picture of Kara. That said, I do think the neck might be a bit too long for Sasha. If you really wanted to do this, though, I'm sure you could shave the neck down. And honestly, the neck might be worth shortening for the Walmart exclusive Black Widow. I saw somebody online do this with the hair painted black and it looked great. Another common Kara custom I've seen is Gwen Stacy. Again, a bit of paint and a bit of shaving the neck down. And if you're busting out the paints anyway, why not turn Mary Jane blonde? This is the version that came with Gwen Stacy and I really like it. But again, the neck's a bit too long for Sasha. For a DC Multiverse Sasha swap, however, and here we have Superwoman. I see a lot of people using this head for Lois Lane, so having her as Lois Lane's daughter really works for me. I don't like it as much on Injustice, but I'll let you be the judge. Of course, for the one everybody asks for when I do a female head swap, and here we have Batwoman unmasked. If I was making a comic book style Lara, this probably would be the way I'd go. Conversely, here it is on Injustice. If you painted the hair blonde, I might like it better, but I think I prefer this head on the other body. Finally, here's Sasha on the Injustice 2 body. It might be because I'm not crazy about this costume, but I'm not really feeling it. And the Injustice head on Sasha's body. It could be because I like this costume better, but I actually like this more than I expected. With both figures having pretty diverse display options, what it really comes down to is if you'd prefer a comic book or a flight stand. If you don't have the comic and that kind of thing floats your boat, cool. For me though, the extra plastic of the flight stand adds more practical value. For playability, this round goes to Multiverse. This leaves us with nothing left to discuss but talking to the manager. Price. The DC Multiverse figure comes with 2 extra hands and a flight stand and only costs $20. Page Punchers comes with 2 hands and a basic stand for $25 just for a comic you can get with 3 other figures. For price, this round goes to Multiverse, making this battle a tie. Until such a time as McFarlane gives us a classic comic version, either one of them would be a fine addition to your display. Agree? Disagree? Sound off in the comments below, and let me know how excited you are to see this new Supergirl on the silver screen. If you like this video, check out one of these. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back again real soon, but until then, play nice and have fun.